Super excited to be here. I guess now the microphone is starting to work. Yeah, I mean, today I'm very excited because I feel like in a stage like this, normally I feel like the least smart person in the room when I'm talking to techies, which is always fun because that means I get to learn a ton. And today it's not about teaching you too much, I hope. It's really about, I think, motivating you and giving you the confidence to build with your prior DevOps skills. Take this, what we've been learning today, and actually use this for data topics. I mean, I just heard, a data scientist here, and myself as I'm also I really like to do analytics more, but every single time I work for EY, every single time I walk into a company, you have to get the data right first. I mean, these things, they show up all the time, and I'll be talking about some examples here as well. But yeah, so again, the goal today is more to show you, you guys are able to handle DataOps, and I'm really already looking forward to having you all set up the proper DataOps in the company so that I can just go in and start looking at data. So thanks already in advance for your effort. So yeah, let's hop in. Yeah, just a short story maybe from my side and how it's DataOps and DevOps. It's not always as safe as it seems. I started at, my tech journey, I started at Bank 99, so a small bank for everyone that's not from Austria. Yeah, super young bank, but it's backed by a bigger company here in Austria. So I came into this company and they'd already set up this amazing tech setup. Really, I mean, now that I work with a lot of other companies, I can appreciate how great it already was, and because someone from the mother came in and set up amazing data pipelines, DevOps setups, and everything. And I came in there, and very quickly it turned out to be, we wanted to get faster. I wanted to get faster. Management was wanting more data. Controlling was wanting more data. Sales was wanting more data. And I was like, we can definitely do this, no problem. Let's get quicker. So I started talking to our data engineers, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, we can do it, but we're gonna have to sacrifice everything that DevOps, related. And I'm like, yeah, well, let's just try. And then we start sacrificing and not doing the tests that are needed and everything. And then suddenly, I'm showing one of these reports to one of the managers, and suddenly the data's wrong, and they're like, what the hell happened? And I'm like, oh goodness. Yeah, probably the test didn't go through well, so okay, yeah, not great. And yeah, first problem already here, trust that starts growing, I mean, we had this great setup, some of them already were using it, and then suddenly I break something. All right, now I have to build up that trust from the beginning. And sadly, I'm not very smart, so making multiple mistakes after each other. Going in again, at some point, a finance guy comes up to me. He's like, tomorrow I need a report for management. Some numbers in the database, they've been screwed up because they came in through an Excel. I need to change them. And then I tell this to one of my colleagues, and he's like, okay, sure, I'll fix it. He was super new. What he did, he went into the database, changed it there. The next morning, the pipeline runs, the data's back to wrong, right? And then, okay, the next day, of course, I'm looking at this data in this report, and again, okay, error. Again, another trusted issue here that shows up. And yeah, so just to give you this idea, these things, they're in there for a purpose. I mean, you guys know best, but all these DevOps topics and DataOps topics, if you get them right and you don't have someone that comes in like me and can destroy it quickly, and that's something that I think everyone here should also be thinking about. People who are motivated and want to do stuff quickly, it's a danger actually sometimes. So yeah, be careful of stuff like that. And the funny thing is now, right, I was at Bank 99 building cool reports, and after a while, we got this set up and everything was running smoothly again, and we were having a lot of fun. We were actually quite quick. But then I wanted to switch to EY and see, okay, how are other companies handling this? Maybe I can use my skills that I learned previously, maybe I can use them for other companies. But I also thought, actually, this is probably not optimal. If I can come in and break so much in so short time, there's got to be better ways, right? So that was kind of the motivation also to switch over to EY. And what I've been seeing, lately is, on this data journey, and I just want to give you like an overview of the waves that we see at like typically every single company that we work with. Is they all go through these phases, and somehow data is always a factor where no one really trusts what's actually going on in the background. And I just heard a number, I think yesterday, it was like 70% of management is like not even sure if they can trust the reportings that they're looking at. So I mean, it's a catastrophe pretty much, right? And there's just these waves where, companies, they want to start analyzing, they want to start figuring out data, they start looking into Excel. Excel's absolutely powerful, absolutely great, but it turns into chaos so quickly because you build up a report and then you bring in new data, you save it, someone looks in a couple weeks later, there's like, is this the most recent data? No, it's not. Tons of issues, and then people start building up KPIs that are built differently and so on. So yeah, you have this Excel era, chaos, that then someone's like, okay, we need to build up this properly. Let's build a data warehouse. Let's put IT on this. They're smart. They'll figure this out. And IT always does, right? They find a solution for everything. And the problem is that normally then IT becomes a bottleneck, right? It happens quickly because suddenly everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We have all this cool data. But then IT gets overrun by all these requirements. And then everyone is suddenly also unhappy because it's not going fast enough. And then they're like, okay, next step, let's go. Self-service. We'll put some Power BI on top of any data warehouse that's available, and people can start building their own stuff. So you only have to get the data in, make sure the quality is controlled. Power BI starts up, and then everyone starts building. And then suddenly you're in the Excel chaos again, pretty much, because everyone started doing their own stuff, built their own KPIs again. What are we going to do? And yeah, and then comes this bureaucracy era where everyone's like, okay, I cannot deal with this madness twice in a row, like Excel, Power BI, same stuff. We're going to put a ton of rules, and then then comes the DevOps, DataOps, and they bring in more data governance frameworks and put people in charge, and then it has to go through all this bureaucracy. And that's also not great, right? So just to feel the story of data so that you guys know, like, this is, if you can bring your DevOps skills to data, you're going to actually be fixing so many problems for so many people. So yeah, and these approaches, these modern approaches, they can really break this frustration cycle. And I just want you guys to know that your skills are super valuable, and that's exactly right what we're talking here about, right? Everyone knows data is valuable, right? I don't know. It's so funny. We talk to tons of different clients, and everyone knows, okay, we're gonna start building insights. We're gonna figure out that which customer is valuable, which is not, and then we're gonna upsell them. We have all these cool ideas that we're gonna do with data, and then they never even reach like even a basic stage. And then the data scientists, they're always like 80% of their time they're just working on getting some data into form. So yeah, we need to get away. We need to get away from that. Yeah, and in my point of view, right, it's not the full cure, but it is part of the cure. Is really getting your DevOps skills onto data. So really start helping your data analytics teams, helping your Power BI teams. Try to start helping them figure out how they can build a better framework so that their data pipelines can start running. And then, I mean, for me, it's super fun to work with data. I hope for most of you, I'm guessing it is also, like diving in deep sometimes. And then maybe you guys can also have, this cool experience that you're actually super close to, or even closer maybe to business. Yeah, and just I think the topics that are absolutely compatible, right? It's first of all, I mean, agile principles for people that are like deep in software engineering. I mean, it's quite clear. I think everyone knows these by now. DevOps principles. I mean, yeah, you guys are in that deeply. And data governance. That's maybe something that's still evolving. It's stuff that we work on a lot. But that's kind of what the DataOps equation is. And we'll talk about a little bit about data governance maybe a bit later. But yeah. In general, right, what you guys know, what I've already heard a lot today, right, is like automation is a key goal for pretty much anyone in software. And it's also part of, a big part of DataOps. And then similarly, I mean, monitoring, we just heard, I guess so much on all these regulations that are coming. I guess monitoring is it's not even just, for benefit of being able to control what you're doing, but actually in the end, it's like something you're actually required to do, so maybe just use it for both, right? And then, CI/CD, I mean, continuous integration. This actually works for data pipelines and stuff as well, so it's perfect that you guys have these skills, and it can really be translated quite well onto all the data ops topics. Yeah, so let's hop into what I would say is like the typical data setup that we see companies wanting to shift towards at the moment, right? Everyone wants to go to the cloud. Everyone wants to, build this medallion architecture. And I think, in my opinion, right, this is absolutely the right direction. I love having, all this raw data you bring in from all the different sources. Actually, I'm not sure if I have I do, yeah, perfect. So, you bring in data from all these different data sources, you bring them into your S3 or whatever bucket, you start storing all of that, doesn't really matter if it's structured or unstructured. And then you start, building your standardized reusable pieces, and then you start building your cool data models, which you then use for either, reports, or you use them for data science, or you use them for actually like customer interactions, even if you have something that's super performant. So this is like the typical data pipeline. And now what normally happens, right? There are a lot of people, they start building these things up, and they forget about building like all these control mechanisms. And the DataOps layer here, what you really just have to start with is getting a Git repository, right? Getting everything into code, data as code. It's actually something that is absolutely possible today, and we're going to talk about now these steps that I think that are used to really strengthen the core base. Importantly, what also I had to wrap my head around at first is. When thinking about data, right, and I'm thinking about creating, this layer is the DataOps layer, but it's also kind of like the development layer, and this here is the production layer. And when you're thinking about how are we going to develop and where is data stable, where is data unstable, I think it's also kind of fun to think about this area is where the data is stable, you keep the data controlled, and you start you build up your CID pipelines, your data pipelines, and you keep the data fixed, right? And then once you have something that works, you bring it into production, and then the data changes. And then the data changes every day. Every single time you bring in new data, it keeps on running, right? So also maybe wrapping your head around, okay, these two layers, and also these two data states that the data is in these different layers. All right, so let's see, how the different DataOps, DevOps logics, can apply to such a setup, right? First of all, what you start doing when you're building like these data pipelines is you build logics and tests, which is, I guess, similar to, I guess even like you check your logs, but you just checked, okay, is the amount of data correct, when it comes in, like short reasoning tests where you maybe check, is the sales data completely off from what we have had the last 3 days, stuff like that. And you can build these tests quite easily, but then having them run every single time new data comes in and being able to check, that's kind of like the first step. Second step is really version control, right? Bringing everything into Git, being able to control all of your data pipelines through a repository where you just have what you guys work with every day, right? You have your scripts there, your source code, you have your configurations. Everything that we talked about, even with like the Terraform stuff that we've already seen, cool code and all this stuff, you can really just bring it into Git, and that's like the first really big step. And then similar to I guess software development, classically, right, is you have multiple environments. Also is something that I kind of was misled by in the beginning at Bank 99, right? Was I just skipped environments sometimes because got to be quick. But yeah, building up these different layers where we have the development stage, quality, and all these things. You can build this up also quite nicely with modern cloud technologies, and then branch and merge. Of course, everyone knows the push and pull fun of life with software. Yeah, and then I think it's just you use your skills to build new components. Get used to building stuff that can be reused, and the parameterization. I think that's super cool that we already talked about it a bit today with the Terraform. Being able to like really quickly set up different parameters. Maybe you want to use like data from a year ago, and then you just have to change it in a parameter, and then you test it quickly in your development stage. Stuff like this, it becomes so much faster also on the data side, and that's why. I'm not sure if you guys can hear, but I just am so excited about all this cool stuff. Yeah. So yeah, data is code. I mean, it's just something I think that has to go into all of our minds. I think for most people, even like people around me, not everyone is working this way. And right now, I'm at in a public company, and they have none of this, and it's absolutely fun, right? Having an environment where you just do as you think, and but then as soon as something goes wrong, it's just chaos. Yeah, traceability even for our infrastructure. Don't have to talk about this anymore. We talked about it in depth already. And yeah, I mean, collab, of course, Git and all these cool features. It just allows you to work on data and pipelines over across teams. Yeah, it's funny how I guess today, I mean, all these topics that we've been talking about, they just kind of flow over to DataOps pretty much. Very, very quickly, right? I mean, logging for insights. I mean, if you've guys seen like a data factory in Asia or so, it's exactly what you would need, right? You would see every single stage. Okay, you pick up some data from maybe in ERP, SAP or something. You start loading it, then have all these transformation steps, and you can follow along. Which script was being used at which step. Where did the crash happen? You can follow all of these all of these steps super easily now with all these modern technologies. It's like super cool. I mean, back at Bank 99, I mean, I had no idea about these technologies that came in, and then suddenly, I mean, I'm just looking at like all these track records and monitorings of every single pipeline that ran, every single script that was run, every single data point that came out. I mean, and it's super easy to figure out where the issue lies, even though I couldn't always fix it myself. I had some cool, very good data engineers behind me. But stuff like that, it's just, it makes, I mean, I don't have a super technical background. I mean, I studied business administration, but I kind of dove into all these topics. I can code and stuff, but I mean, there's people that are so much better. And but it's so fun, right? Even for me, that people that don't have like extreme backgrounds in these technologies, it's super easy, like for people, people like me, I guess, to even look at all of these things and figure out where is the error, where can I help, where do I maybe need to get someone from business involved because maybe it's a logic topic, and all these things. So logging, a great topic for having fun with data. Chasing the data flow, I guess, that's quite obvious. It's just what I was talking about. And then detecting the schema drift. I mean, even stuff like super cool stuff for someone who is like looking into like data science. I mean, suddenly, there's a new column, or the date column got changed into a month and a year. I mean, all these like simple changes that can cause your complete day to be ruined because you have to go looking for where the error happened. I mean, it becomes super easy because you can actually just track schema data shifts instantly, and fix it. Or sometimes even I mean, we have had some setups where you can actually just address schema data shifts automatically without you ever having to touch the pipeline. Yeah, the business world, yeah. I came here, I mean, a lot of our clients, I'm not sure if this is readable, it looks tiny. Maybe I should have chosen a different size, but I wanted to talk about how, these things that I'm talking about is just not just what I see. I mean, these are a lot of these projects that I've worked on, but there are also some projects where other of my colleagues have been working on these things. And I'm just saying, all of these topics, they keep on coming up. It's always the same picture pretty much, which makes it sometimes kind of boring. And that's why I'm hoping, you guys will fix it for me, as I mentioned. But what happens is it's so often, like there's a challenge, like an international retailer that I was working on. They have like this super cool modern architecture that they bring in, but all the data in there, it doesn't help if you have cool architecture, if you have cool software. I mean, they were using amazing BigQuery, Google architecture, but they could not get their data straight, right? It just wouldn't work. And we talked to them, and they had already heard about DataOps approaches. I mean, they're not out of this world. They understand that these things exist, but then just thinking about how can we implement it into their team and bringing it into their setup. I mean, it kind of really transformed, how they were feeling about their own data at the end. It's like you get this unified view of everything that's coming in, and just the amount of observability of their data and being able to tell someone, okay, this report is not working today. We actually know the exact cause instantly, and we're going to be able to fix it in 2 weeks. I mean, like that simple communication step will give you like this huge confidence, but also like trust boost when you're talking to business people. And just to show, I mean, these things, they just come up every single time. We like a finance department for a manufacturing company. They're merging, of course, and then you have these siloed systems, and you have to bring the data together. They want to figure out, what is our total sales, and they couldn't do it by themselves. And it's like, how is this possible? Well, why can't you figure out what your total sales is? And it really just came down to getting a process in where everyone had to kind of follow a certain framework, right? And that's what this DataOps and DevOps topics really is, right? You bring in a framework that everyone can follow and everyone knows the rules, and suddenly you get something that that consolidates a proper platform, and you get this reporting. And it's like, for us, we were so surprised on how happy they were about having a good sales report at the end. And it really just came down, a good DataOps framework, and I mean, some other topics that we brought in there, like data governance. But it really can be that simple. Yeah, I don't think I need to go through all of these examples. It's just so that you guys know, if you use this, you're going to make a lot of people happy. Yeah, and I think the good news is, right, is a lot of tools that are already used in CI and CD, they can just be reused for a lot of these DataOps topics, right? I mean, Jenkins, GitLab, Azure DevOps and stuff. I mean, it's really, you can use pretty much any tool that you've already been used to. And then if you're in a company where you don't have, like, you don't want to spend, or you can't convince management that you need to spend a ton of money on like a cool, costly solution. I mean, there's tons of open source tools like Airflow and DBT and stuff that can sometimes be used in smaller stacks that are at least quite cheap or even free. And this really it's just good for you guys to know right there that you can transfer these skills that you have from previous technologies and just use it, and start talking to your data analytics teams and start helping them out. Yeah. So yeah, why go through all the hustle, right? Why use your skills? Why help others when you probably have enough problems as is every day? I mean, I think for me it's fun, right? To be able to know, okay, I'm going to be able to help someone get some stuff working for them, and then once they're happy, then I know at some point I'm going to need something from them, and then I can talk to them, and then they'll help me. And I think it's really, if you can communicate it properly, right, you'll be able to really show them, you're going to be much more reliable. At some point, you're going to be actually even faster, because once you have got the framework and set up, and you start building your data products and stuff that can be trusted, it's really just adding onto that, and everything is nicely automated. And then at the end, you have your beautiful data models that you just throw into Power BI or into machine learning, and then suddenly you get like these great outputs. But I mean, of course, you got to get over the hump first. Then transparency. I mean, now more than ever with all these EU regulations, it's almost a must. I mean, it's already great for a company to have transparency, but now more than ever, right, a necessity. And collaboration, right? I mean, being able to let people see more, just as I was, right? Back then I could look into these data pipelines, figure out what was going on, and that just, it was a great way for me to collaborate with very smart tech people, and I think that's something that is definitely undervalued. When other people can get together and both sides can understand what everyone is trying to work on, work just gets more fun. Yeah, and just so that you guys know, right? I mean, once you're already in the DataOps scene and working on all these topics, and you want to figure out, okay, maybe we need to start, thinking about how we can organize the people around us a bit better, and because DataOps is like the best starting point, but sometimes you have to also try to get the organization to follow. Then you can start bringing in some data governance insights as well to when you're bringing in DataOps into your company, and then yeah. DataOps, I mean, if someone is asking and questioning, why are we doing this? I mean, if anyone wants to do AI, I think getting your data right, it's typical, right? I mean, we do Gen AI projects with a couple clients, and I mean, even there, it's never a AI problem. It's always then the data problem in the end, right? It's if you want someone to, we looked at a chatbot like earlier, right? The setup of of the chatbot itself, right? The technologies, they stand alone. You push them and you you fire them up. But then, getting the data that works into such a system, that's actually normally the real problem. And if you already have your data set up in the background properly, then actually Gen AI becomes properly easy. Yeah, and self-service. I mean, that's something that I think anyone in data analytics or so can really grasp and appreciate. All right. Yeah. To motivate you even more, I really am fired up for these topics. But for me, the motivation, right? What I believe is that if we don't want to fall behind, I think everyone knows, data is a core component in being competitive in the market. And I really want the Austrian companies to be competitive in the future, and that's why I feel like I really want to push you to use your DevOps skills and use them in the data discipline. Because what we see often really with companies is that they know that they're falling behind, especially on these data topics, and they feel like if they don't gain or if they don't keep up with this, they're actually going to lose their competitive advantage. Because often we have great engineers; they're extremely great at building and building machines. I think a lot of people here are actually from such a background. But then, figuring out how can we use this better in different markets, understanding the markets, getting external data, getting in, understanding our processes better. All of this comes down to data, even though it's not the full picture, right? But getting your data right will keep us competitive for longer, right? Or maybe even get us to a very competitive state. And that's really what I want for our Austrian companies, so that we can keep on, making great products and be leaders in a lot of topics. Be smarter, faster, all these things that I want Austria and us to be. I just really want to ride this point home. DataOps can really help disrupt this frustration buildup that a lot of companies have seen in the past, and I want to just help you help others. And that's pretty much it from me today. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much, Alexander, for this great talk. I took a lot of notes. What would you say is one DevOps practice that has the highest impact on data quality? Because that's what we always have, shitty data everywhere. Yeah,
it has to be getting, it's actually, I would say two things, right? First of all, it's getting your code set up properly with Git, right? Getting it into a repository. It's just being able to follow what other people are doing, what you're doing yourself. It just has to be done. And the second, documentation. I didn't talk about it too much today, but documentation is key in all of these topics, especially if you want to be able to collaborate better within your company. But yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.